Okay, guys. We are all back this side. Aaron is going to speak on how to build predictable revenue, SaaS. Okay.
I can hear you now with that
No,
mic.
no, I said thanks a lot for taking time to speak with us. It's quite early for you in the U.S. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Hope your kids are getting ready to go to school.
Oh, yeah, they are. My wife and our au pair are working on them, on 5 of them.
Okay. Okay, guys. We have Aaron with us right now, and he's going to talk the next 40 minutes or so. And then he's open up for question and answers in the end of the session. Aaron needs no introduction. He's wrote this famous book on predictable revenue, and he's VP of Sales in Salesforce, and you know what a Salesforce success is. So, and they pretty much created the SaaS and the following cloud category as a whole. So, with that, without much further ado, I'll let Aaron get going. Aaron, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Does that work?
Should work.
All right, let me try it. And then, if there's any audio troubles, or you need me to repeat myself,
I will prompt you.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. Hold on here. And sure, if you angle, if you turn the computer a bit so I can see the screen, I can make sure it's matching.
Yeah, actually we can see it. I think it synchronizes, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, let me move this down.
So just to give you a idea about the audience here, Aaron. So we have the largest gathering of founders and co-founders and entrepreneurs of SaaS businesses in India. We have more than 100 people in a single room. This is the first such event that's happening in India, and we are so happy to have you on this particular event.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I wanted to start by saying good morning. As Suresh mentioned, it's 6 o'clock, 6:30 here. It was a bit rough last night. There were kids who were coughing and waking up and need to go to the bathroom, and I don't know, it was just a rough night with everybody. But I'm excited to talk to you guys, and congratulations on having such a large group of SaaS founders. As he mentioned, I wrote a book called Predictable Revenue, which has been called the Sales Bible of Silicon Valley. And I'm working on, here we go, just a second book, in which I'll get to. But the books, what I always think about is my goal is to help you get over these hot coals as a founder or an executive. Now, most companies, when they get started and they are created, they get some customers early in this part A. And I don't think I can do a little, painkiller. You know, so you start out in this A area, and you get customers from friends, from prior relationships, typically, usually. It's the ones who are the easiest to get, and it gets you started. And then you start to do outbound prospecting or marketing, or you're trying to get more customers. You want to get this area C with upward growth, but as you start to do it, it rarely works at first. You get into these hot coals where you're struggling to find a way to grow your business. Right? And I want to help you understand why you hit those hot coals and how to get through them faster. Oops. As I mentioned, so this is the next book. The title's going to change. You can get it's a free ebook right now on this link. So, but it's going to be expanded, and the title's going to change. I'm not sure to what exactly but working on it with a guy named Jason Lemkin. I hope you follow him. If you don't, you should have. You could find him pretty easily or find him through this. But he's probably the best SaaS writer out there right now. Better than me, by the way. ago. And I mentioned I've got, if you haven't heard of me, so I helped create a system that added an extra $100 million to Salesforce.com in the early days in revenue. By now, it's probably been about $1 billion, and which it's also been repeated at other companies. I've got 5 kids, and we're adopting 2 more, at least 2, probably more than 2. And for years, I've stuck to this. This is more of a fun fact, like a 20 to 30-hour work week. And by the way, I need to make money. That $100 million at Salesforce was their money, not mine. We just had a baby. This is the number 5, who's about 9 months old, Darcy. Again, I do a lot with my kids, and I try to integrate. When I can, I want to involve them with what I do, just mostly for fun, but also so they learn. This is my oldest daughter, Aurora, who's now 12, but she helped me keynote the first Sales Hacker Conference. So, but for today, I'm going to share some ideas that have helped companies, say, crush their goals, create predictable revenue, and develop really great sales talent. Some ideas are from the first book, some are from the next. And for example, Acquia was a consulting client, and there's a case study, but they were about a $40 million company, and they're going to hit $100 million in revenue soon, probably within a year, based on these ideas. And even better, Responsys was a $20 million company, not growing, and within 5 years, they grew to $200 million in revenue, and then Oracle bought them for $1.5 billion, with basically what's in this presentation. So, first mistake, blaming salespeople for failing. Now, this is more of a, I call, more of a big idea. And the important thing is, if you have salespeople, the culture of sales tends to be about blaming the salesperson. If they missed their number, they're fired. It's their fault, which it is in some way, but we put too much responsibility on the salesperson. So what I look at, now these are just rules of thumb, is if on your sales team you have team churn or attrition of your salespeople of more than 10% per year, which means if you have 50 salespeople and you lose more than about 5 per year, whether they quit or whether you fire them, then you might have a problem with your sales system. Or if you're regularly missing your goals of some sort. Either one, to me, would indicate that it's not the people you've got, it's probably the way that you're creating everything, the way you hire, train, generate leads, market, positioning, niche, etc. It's probably you, not them. So that's what I want you to keep in mind, is having more of a shared responsibility between the salespeople who need to succeed and you who needs to provide an environment to make it easier for them to succeed. Now, there's let's say 3 main reasons why people struggle. There are 3 very common, so I'm going to go through those 3 now for these other 3 fatal mistakes. So the second fatal mistake is confusing prospects. And this is about why you need to nail your niche. Now, and at least here, we all get, at least in the United States, we all get emails from companies in India, and plus from people in Silicon Valley, or you meet them, and people will, they're fascinated by their jargon. And of course I'm being a bit funny here, but companies will describe themselves as creating a leading next generation scale social platform, crowd-funded glazed eye jargonation. Like, it doesn't tell me anything. And I love this cartoon. The Far Side was a classic cartoon here in probably the 1980s, but at the top it says, "What we say to dogs. Okay, Ginger, I've had it. You stay out of the garbage. Understand, Ginger? Stay out, or else." That's what we say to dogs. That's what we say to our customers. But what the dogs hear, what the customers hear is, blah, blah, Ginger, blah, 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 Ginger, blah, blah. So true. Now, this is an email I got yesterday, within 1 or 2 days ago, from Arvind, a company in India. And frankly, the email itself, it's not that bad. It's actually well written and decent, I think, good English. There's some things that are off with his grammar, but it's pretty good. It's good formatting. It's sort of visually all right. There are some things you can improve, but the problem is we can do website designing and website maintenance and website development and e-commerce. They can do a lot of these things. And it's hard to understand what they really do, what they're good at. So again, it's more confusing. It's not simple to understand. Here's one more. Virtual assistant service starts at $4. In this case, what's a bit confusing is he says that he's a virtual assistant in India, and he can basically assist any company, and you can do a free trial. And again, the grammar is good. There are some things that are off, some subtle clues. But at the bottom, he's got a USA phone number, and his name is Ron, which isn't bad. But again, it's a little bit more confusing. Which I think I'm going to get to is why it's hard for people to buy a virtual assistant. So again, these are actually a pretty good, I would say, compared to some other emails just overseas, and even in the United States, they're not that bad. But I'll get to what we would do differently. So what happens is, when we're trying to send cold emails or do even marketing to cold prospects, there's this fear that we've got about we want to give them everything. Right? Because what if they want mobile development? But what if they want website development? But what if they want virtual assistants? Let's give them everything in case they want something. But the problem is, it's just confusing to someone, because if I don't know you, I'm only going to spend this much, a tiny bit of energy to figure you out. And what happens is when you start to clarify and focus, the main thing that you do well, your unique genius, and you remove the clutter, it becomes a lot easier for prospects to understand how you can help them. Right? These are the emails I was getting. I have to spend a lot of mental energy to figure out, okay, well, do I really want something? What is it? Versus if you can remove the clutter. So I think this is probably the #1 place to begin in order to make any business easier to grow, easier to sell, or outbound or inbound more effective, is to start here, focusing. Because when someone's confused, and remember, you know your business really well, and you know how you help customers. but nobody else does. And so it's going to take more energy, more mental energy than you realize for someone like myself to figure out, wait, what do you do well, and do I want you, and what can you do for me? So anytime I get confused, my mind says no. So anytime if you start to hear, you may not hear the word no from prospects, but what you hear are things like, oh, we'll do it later, or maybe, or I'm not sure, or maybe send me more information. So this is clarity. And we could all take lessons from my daughter, same one, Aurora. So when she comes to me, this is about, you think about it this way. When she comes to me and she says, hey, Dad, can you take me, like I have donuts, can you take me for donuts? My reaction is no, or like this, later, maybe. Send me more information, Aurora. But when she says, Dad, when we go for donuts, it's some of the most fun times of my life. I'll always treasure these memories. Now she's talking to me in the language that I care about. Right? She's telling me, talking to me in a simple way, like, why should I care? And so you remember, it's easy to forget what do customers want. They don't care what you do. They don't care that you're Indian-based outsourcing or e-commerce or web development or services or Saasx. They don't care, really. They care about what you can do for them. How are you going to make me money or save me money? Start there. At some point, I'll want to understand how you do it, but not at the very beginning. And so, at least for today, again, this I think is an easy place to start. How would you improve your messaging? Think about this again. It's not, if you're at a party and someone asks you, what do you do? Don't tell them what you do. Pretend they ask the question, well, how do you help customers? Right? It automatically gets your brain to think about results, not like web development. Or another way to do this is to ask yourself, so what? I'm a virtual assistant. Okay, so what? Well, I can save you time. Okay, so what? Or, well, it doesn't work. How about, okay, I know, I can file your expense reports for you. Oh, okay, so what? Well, so that you can save 30 minutes a week and not have to do something that's a pain in the butt. It's better. Right? So you can use this kind of question to help yourself go from the activity you do to more the result, to what people care about. And another version of this is, what's so great about that? I do really low-cost web development. All right, what's so great about that? So on. So, now, if you're overseas, if you're selling to another company, as much as you start with improve the messaging, how can you create what do they want rather than what you can do? But then it does help by thinking through, how do you translate it to the local language, whether it's the names you use to the products or labels. Here in the U.S., it can help to have a local address, telephone, or person. Of course, clear writing in the local language. And if you're doing any phone calls, especially important is clear language, having someone who can really speak clearly in the local language. Because what happens is, if you have someone who's making phone calls and their accent is too strong, an accent is fine, but if it's to the point where it's harder, it takes more mental energy to try to understand them, then it's just hard. It's putting more burden on the person you're talking to, and it doesn't work as well. It just means, like, they want to choose this over others, and they believe in your promises. In fact, I actually may make this a believable solution. Right. Because it's easy to make claims, but can you back it up with proof? The fourth are identifiable targets. So you have to be in a market where you can go out and actually find places to either like find a list of them or find channels to get to them. And the fifth is genius. Every company has some sort of X factor or special ability, whether it's just plain work, low cost, but ideally it's a special expertise in some area. But this is going to be a big section in the next book. But these are some aspects of what you want to look for in your market. All right? Many questions? Remember, Avinash and Suresh hopefully have a to collect some, so we'll do it at the end. Third fatal mistake, hire more salespeople. And I'm just going to check. I don't think I've gotten any chat notifications from you guys, but let me just check here. Yep. Okay. I don't know if the notifications work. Now, if you've read the first book, you should recognize these ideas. Now, remember, lead generation, not your sales team, is your big lever. Now, even with a sales process or big sales team, if your lead generation is you're going to struggle. But with leads, you can get a lot wrong and still do well. So I'm going to go through the three types of leads. And it's similar to, again, my daughter Pari has 3 vehicles. They're all great, but they're different. One is necessarily better than the other. There's her scooter here to play by herself. She's got the family van when we need to take everybody someplace. The motorcycle just for fun pictures. And likewise, leads, there's seeds, necessars. They're all great, but they're different. Depending on your business, one may work better than the others for you. Now, most businesses want all 3 at the same time, but you usually need to focus on 1 or 2 at a time. So I'm going to go through each one in a little more detail. Seeds is really about word of mouth. And in this case, we want to turn your sales hourglass. So word of mouth is hard to make predictable. But the best way is through customer success. Right? So by actually investing in your customers and making them successful, it is in getting more word of mouth, more upsells, referrals. More higher retention. It's actually a better investment than hiring salespeople. And now people are smarter about looking at, especially in a SaaS business, customer success triggers, contracts, billing, etc. At least in the US, there's 3 SaaS benchmarks we use. I'm not sure about the financial differences there, but for example, this one should be about the same. Is that we should be less than 15% per year in customer churn by number of customers. So number of companies, and ideally 0% in revenue churn. So you lose some customers, but some other ones should buy more. So you end up about the same or even better. Third is 1 dedicated customer success manager for every $2 million in revenue. Now, I don't know what the equivalent would be if you have lower costs. It might be less, like for every $500,000 in revenue, $1 million there. But what's common is for companies to underinvest in actually having customer success people. So I think this helps give you a benchmark for how big should that team be. In fact, again, the number one customer tip that Jason and I have here is do it bigger and faster. Do it earlier and do it bigger. Right? Because customer success can be 5 times the value of sales. Right? That's seeds. We're going to go into nets now. Nets is inbound marketing or marketing. And this is even from the first book, a classic marketing funnel. Website visitors who convert, you qualify and you close. Right? So each type of seeds, nets, spears, they have a different funnel. They have different expectations, perhaps different types of customers, different deal sizes, and so on. So this is why it's important to understand the differences. Now, with marketing, there's lots of good information out there. There are a few favorite marketing tactics. So I'm a fan of VP of marketing should have a lead quota, a lead commit, just like sales has a lead quota, sales quota. I think the best metric to track is pipeline velocity rate, which is how much qualified pipeline is being created per month, and is it growing or shrinking month over month. A third is just to understand the different buying stages prospects go through, where first they're learning, and so you're teaching, before they evaluate and then decide. And the last is to make your marketing more personal, less stiff, less stuffy. Because, sorry, let me move this. There's more details on all these in that ebook I mentioned, the Triple Your Sales ebook. But I'm going to spend a bit more time on making it personal, because I think this is a big thing in the United States that I am trying to get people to do. So most marketing, a lot of marketing just sounds the same now. There's a lot of it. Everybody learns from each other. And I find, again, in the U.S., we have these marketing personalities. Like there's a lot of companies that are like stock, just data. There's no emotion. Just give me the facts. It's very dry and often boring. Sometimes in Silicon Valley, we get companies that are like a clown. Look at me, I'm so cool, I'm so funny. But there's nothing useful there. Or it's all the clowning and hiding anything that's useful. Or you might get the motivational speaker type. Go out and be successful without any real advice. Anyway, the point is, with your marketing, including emails, how can you combine data, which is actual results or useful information, with humanity, your personality, where really you want people buy from people. And even with cold emails, when it feels like it's coming from a real person rather than a template, people respond to that better. Let me give you an example. Zendesk and Hootsuite did this, Halloween video competition, which they were including sort of marketing information in these videos while they had this fun video competition. They're combining data and humanity. But something even more simple is this A/B test that a partner did. They invited some people to a webinar with more of a classic marketing newsletter with HTML, pictures and more impersonal. They did one version. They did another version that came from the head of marketing. It was more like a regular email. Still, I would say a bit dry, but is a bit more. She put more of a personal note in it. And the difference is the personal one drove 3 times as many registrants to the webinar. Right? Oops. I got to fix my. I have something called Flux, which changes my screen color so early here. Oh, where did it go? That's why it's getting yellow. There it is. Switch. Anyway, so by just making it simpler, a little more personal, even a little bit, they tripled the webinar registrants. They got 60 from the plain email and 20 from the HTML, the fancy email. All right, Spears, getting into outbound prospecting. Right, this is an outbound funnel, again, different from the others. It's not better or worse, it's just different. You want to understand the pros and cons. You know, your target lists, emails, calls, sales. Different steps, different metrics. You know, and this is the one, and this is, if you haven't seen the book or read about it, you can see an example funnel from Acquia, which is adding an extra $30 million per year from outbound. Sorry, this is, with outbound, it's easier, I think, to get to math where if we're sending a certain emails or making calls, and each prospect is generating, Acquia, $700,000 in revenue, they decided to just hire 40 prospectors. You know, the math works. So here's the link, predictablerevenue.com/Acquia for a detail, their funnel, how they did it, and so on. But outbound is not for everybody. Right? There's some great things about it. Right? It can drive predictable, fast growth. You can get into bigger companies. Inbound marketing doesn't tend to work as well with bigger companies. You can proactively source bigger deals if you want. Right? It's a great complement to inbound. Inbound marketing and outbound taste great together, but it's not for everyone. So again, if you're a services company, like if you haven't nailed your niche, if you sell small deals, I'm not sure again for your financials, but in the United States, you should sell at least $20,000 in terms of customers, lifetime value of customers of maybe 20,000 and up, or 10,000 to 20,000 and up. That's at least our expense basis. But anyway, so it's not for everybody. And we'll often see when companies are trying to send emails, they'll send emails that are too long, they're confusing with jargon, they might even be lying. I get lots of emails that say, I looked at your website, and it looks like you need help with outbound prospecting. No, you didn't look at them. You're lying. Or they're just boring or vague. So there's a lot of problems that people do with outbound email. So the one with outbound, if you're using email, but I think actually this really works for any kind of marketing you do. How can you make it simple to understand and easy to answer, or easy to act on? Simple to understand, easy to act on. So this is, again, goes back to that niche. Remember the focus. Don't throw everything at somebody. Give them something really easy to understand. Again, this could be in marketing, prospecting. We get emails like this, and it's not that long, but it is too long. And they talk about doing multi-channel, multi-touch points lead generation approach. The English, she says she's from North America, but her English is not that great. It's just it's very vague. I don't understand what is her unique genius? What makes them special versus the other 20 emails like this I get? So, a lot of companies build internal. So, by the way, if you are a SaaS company, you can use I think outsourcing is great to get started with prospecting, but you want to have your own internal team. And I don't know if any company's there. If you outsource in any place, maybe not. But outsourcing is not like a magical solution. This is a very famous ad here. I don't know if you guys get the joke. But the reality of outsourcing is that, I think, whether this is for you or whether this is something you sell, for smaller companies, it might be a replacement. But for fast growth companies, it's really an accelerator or a complement. So again, if you think about it, you might use outsourcing for a few months to get started while you build your internal team. Or again, if you sell it somehow, you have to realize that for most businesses, if they're going to grow, it's not a long-term solution. But outsourcing, at least with outbound prospecting, our system can work really well. Carb.io does it with my system. It's been very popular over here. In fact, if you're interested in partnering, or you should reach out. We always look for partners. We're building software to automate outbound. But I'm going to get to, I think just in terms of time, I'm going to get here to this fourth fatal mistake. Not specializing sales roles. Again, from the first book, but I'm going to expand a bit on it. Now, why salespeople shouldn't prospect. Salespeople tend to not be any good, like experienced salespeople. They're not very good at it. They don't like it, and it's not repeatable. Right? In the U.S., we say it's like teaching a pig to sing. It just frustrates you and annoys the pig. So, and by these salespeople, again, I tend to mean the experienced ones who are carrying a quota. But in general, and this is not just true of sales, it's also of anyone in the company, specialization equals focus. When you specialize people, they can focus. With development teams, you've got DBAs, you've got front end, back end, and you specialize your development team. You specialize on your cricket team. Why don't we specialize on our sales team? So here are the 4 roles. Outbound prospect. Well, now again, this is an example. Some companies end up with 3 roles or more. But this is a common one, which is you have prospectors who prospect, inbound lead response, if you have inbound leads, closers, and like customer-based teams. But the principle is you have more types of sales roles, in which in the role they do less, but they do it better. And when you do this, when you specialize your sales team, it helps you create predictability and scalability, because you have better insights on how each part of the team works. So it makes it easier to grow. It's like Lego blocks to add people in the different roles. And perhaps the best part is you get a farm team system, where you can hire people and bring them up through the ranks so they get better and better and better, like a video game. Anyway, the point is, if you don't specialize, you're going to struggle. There's always lots of questions, so I'm going to answer some of those questions here around this. So a common one, what if I'm too small? I'm only one person or 2 people. Well, you specialize your calendar. So you might pick out a block of time, say 2 hours every other day or 1 day a week, where you do whatever that's important. It might be a day for prospecting, or it might be a 2-hour block for customer success. But you use your calendar to focus yourself. Another question common is, if I'm passing a prospect off, doesn't that hurt the relationship, or does service suffer? But actually, usually service gets better, because at each step of the customer cycle, you have a person there who's dedicated to be incredibly responsive and an expert at that step. And when salespeople juggle too much, they'll give great attention to the people they're trying to close, and everyone else tends to suffer. What if you're too big? If you're IBM, there's other challenges. Sort of skip that. You need to do like a skunk, like a sort of a secret internal project to make it work before you roll it out. And if you have a very short sales cycle, say one call close, then you would do it differently. You might combine inbound leads and sales, or maybe prospecting and selling or something, right? So that's the difference where if it's 1 or 2 calls, you may not do this, or you may do it differently. All right, so to wrap up here, just again, stepping back, when you've got sales challenges, how much of it is the people versus the company? And my guess is, so that you're nailing a niche in messaging is probably the place where most of you, I mean, I don't know you, but my guess would be that is probably the main challenge for most of you there that I would focus on. Because if you can nail your niche in messaging, that will make your prospecting better, your marketing better, and your sales cycles and closing better. Right? This is some of the reminders here. So, niche, how can you specialize better? With seeds, investing bigger and faster with customer success. With marketing, the idea of having the head of marketing have a lead quota and being a little more personal about it, not so stuffy. And last, again, this would be U.S. numbers. The numbers may be smaller for you. Is if you sell a product that's worth maybe 5,000 to 10,000 there, you should have outbound prospecting. Sorry, except if you sell product. If you do services, maybe not. So customer success inbound may work better for you. Now, if you want some more information, actually, a lot of this, the consulting I do tends to be with bigger companies or bigger projects, and we're coming out with a new thing, a Predictable Revenue bundle, within about a week. It's not ready yet, but it's got some of the applications and books and things for. It's not going to be only $1,000 at PredictableRevenue.The. You can go there. I think you can get a free book already right now. And we got some time for questions. So I think we're going to send some over in chat.
Aaron, I think people can speak and you can still hear, I guess.
Yeah, we could try it.
Okay, I think, guys, Aaron is open for questions. Do you guys have questions? Can you speak? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Just repeat it. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Hey, Aaron, this is Sean. I run Fixnix. So we are into GRC space. Probably I'm trying to Saasify. Though we are in enterprise on-premise space, we are trying to be the Salesforce for GRC, probably trying to pioneer or something like that. There are a couple of attempts. So what I'm trying to understand is, so you are trying SaaS as a pioneer attempt in some of the verticals, niche verticals in some space like compliance or security like mine. So probably what are the challenges? See, Salesforce, you might have seen the same set of challenges, right? Initially, probably the outbound, maybe the best strategy might have worked in the initial days. So what may be the small piece of advice you may be able to provide if you are trying to do SaaS as a pioneer thing? So where all your competitors are selling it for probably $50,000 or $100,000 on-premise. So where you are trying to SaaSify or cloudify. So probably what's the one piece of advice you would like to pass on? Thank you.
Sure. So what was the company name? I didn't see. I actually want to check out.
It's called. Okay, go ahead.
Fixnix.
Like Fixnix?
Yeah, Fixnix. Yeah, that's right.
So who's next?
Well, so a piece of advice. It's not coming up on my screen here, but. The piece of advice, again, it's...
I'm bootstrapping, so we are .co.
Okay, no problem. So for example, you say Cloudify, Saasify. So if I look at your website, it's talking, again, it's going back to your talk about what you can do. Our GRC management suite, you can't assume, you want to, when you're prospecting or with your website, you want to make them not have to think to understand what you're talking about. And for example, our GRC management suite, what is, some people might know what GRC is, I don't, but you'd be surprised, a lot of people who come to your site may not know GRC, so you should just spell out, write it out. Like I wouldn't, but then remember, what's the result you're trying to create for them? So focus more, as much on the result here as explaining what you do. And by the way, cloudify your governance doesn't really, I don't really care about cloudifying something. Like, how does that help me? Do I save money? Do I save time? Like, make it really blunt. Like, what do I get out of this? So that idea of nailing your niche and messaging, that's where I would start for you.
Okay, that's great. Meaning that was interactive. So anybody else? What's next? Satya? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can speak through the mic, yeah. No, you can come here. We can't hear you.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you for the session. I'm Ravi from Ripple Hire. We help companies automate their hiring by leveraging their existing workforce. The question I have for you is, you mentioned 3 different parts, right? You have seeds, nets, and spears.
Yeah.
And obviously we're now entering into the US market, and I'm looking at, if I have to go in and focus on a strategy first, because obviously bandwidth is limited, if there's an order in which you would want us to go, which would that order be? What would your recommendation be?
Always start with customer success, right?
Okay.
Because without customer success, in terms of happy customers who refer you, then you've got nothing.
Got it.
And,
okay.
All right. How many paying customers do you have now? You said.
So we have RippleHire.com. You actually got it right the first time.
Oh. How many paying customers do you have?
We have about 12 paying customers.
12.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's this phase where somewhere between a few customers, or 10, or 20, or 50, you get enough customers that are paying you money, where you can step back and decide, okay, some of these customers didn't work out very well, and some worked out great. So we've tried to make them all successful, but now we're smarter about who our next 50 or 100 customers should be.
Okay.
So part of that is around focus on customer success, and look at this 12 or 20 customers as information to help you retarget, because you don't want to sell to everybody. You want to really get as smart as you can about the best customers, who have the biggest problem and are the most successful with you for the most money, and go for those.
Got it. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have one more question. Just come this way.
Sure.
Hi, Aaron. I'm Satya. We run Zapstitch.com. So this is about the sales specialization of qualification of the roles.
Sure.
So today we are focusing on seeds and nets, and all the acquisition is happening on inbound, and all the retention is happening on customer success. So the question that I have for you is, we have this onboarding specialist who kind of handholds the customer during the free trial and acts more like a product specialist, so that he can answer any customer queries and acts more like a helper. And then we let the customer convert organically if he likes the product and value proposition and all. We aren't actually going and doing a sales pitch for the free trial, right? Though the conversions are okay-ish, I mean, the free trial to paid is like 30% conversion today. But just wondering from that specialization of role, do we need something like an onboarding specialist and also a salesperson who actually makes the pitch of pay me the dollar now?
Yeah, it's a good question. What size of deal are you talking about? Like, how big are these companies? Are they small?
Yeah,
Are they large?
the average subscription is $35, and we have around 350 paying customers.
Okay. So usually what happens with SaaS is you end up over time with three tiers of salespeople. There's the top, the biggest, the tier, the group that sells to like the big companies that do very complex big deals. Then there's the middle tier, which does, it's called mid-market companies. And there's a group of salespeople that sells to like the small businesses. And the reason you end up with different teams is because the way that companies buy and the way you sell is different. And it's too hard to mix them. So if you're talking about these small businesses, $35 a month, it's very likely that the person, like you said, the onboarding specialist could be sort of doing the close as well. If they're already talking to them, they're helping them, at least for small businesses, and then they just sort of help encourage them, encourage the right ones to sign on the line that is dotted or buy. Now that might change as you get bigger customers someday. So this is where if you have if some of those 350 are bigger customers that spend $1,000 a month, or I don't know what the right, but you can usually tell they're a little bit more complicated. They have to bring in other people to buy. So that's the point where you probably will start to separate out your, sort of onboarding the trial person versus a salesperson. Or you might specialize a different way than with the really small businesses. Right? Because I think, to look for is the small businesses, there's like one person and they're the buyer. But then as you get bigger, there'll be one person who is the point person of a bigger group that is buying as a group, as like there's a team buying. And that's the more complicated sale.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Aaron, we have a couple of more questions, and then we'll do the launch, and we are pretty much done.
Yeah.
You want to ask? No. Yeah.
Hi, Aaron. My name is Sujit. I'm from a company called Nifty Window. We help brands with offline presence attract consumers from online to offline. So it's a hyperlocal marketing platform for brands. My question was around differential pricing for geographies, based on geographies.
Yep.
Have you seen it work well for any SaaS platforms, and wanted to get your views on it?
It does. It's hard. It's just because it makes things more complicated. So I know, for example, Salesforce, every company that is doing much internationally ends up with local pricing in some way. Even if it's, though, just translating the US price to a local amount and rounding it off. So, for example, if Salesforce was $65 in the United States, it was probably, it might have been like 55 euros or 65 euros. But, and I don't know how they did China. So you can do it, and you can do it with bigger prices. So, for example, in China, you could make it much cheaper, but it just makes things a lot more complicated. So, you have to have your website reacts differently. You have to maintain a lot more. There's different versions of contracts in your system. It makes it a lot more complicated. So in that case, I'd say pick your battles wisely. If you want to do it, try to do it in a way which is as simple as possible to start, and maybe in just one market.
Okay, guys. And we'll probably keep that as the last question and then go into the book launch. I think we are pretty much coming to the end of the timing. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to assemble the people who contributed to the guide. I want to call upon Krish, Neeraj, Paris, all the people who worked on the guide on stage. I also call Sharad if, for High Spirit. Sharad, I thought it'll be great, you'll also be there part of the guide launch. So, Aaron, the way we are going to do it is if you can go to guides.ispirit.in on your browser.
Yeah.
I'm just assembling people.
Okay.
Just hold on.
Is it this one? Or
Available at guides.ispirit.in. I think you can, people who contributed to the guide can please come on stage. Krish, Neeraj, Paris, Avlesh. Where is Avlesh? Okay, and I think Sunil is not here, and Zapstitch, if Satya can come on behalf of Tejas. Yeah. So actually, this is really a collaborative activity. Aaron, if you can go to the authors and contributors, you can actually see the companies and the founders have actually put in a lot of time in putting together this guide. It's actually a community, this is really a community effort. So all of us are pulling all the experience we have and then giving back to the community. There are 4 people who have spent a lot of time, and then there are 4 other people who have spent the time reviewing the guide. And then there are a lot of other companies who have participated in the roundtables. And in the left part of the navigation at the bottom, there is something called companies which participated in the roundtables. If you can click that, it's very much at the last link on the left-hand side. Yeah. So these are all the companies. We have given credit to all the companies which participated in the logo. So we have actually collected collective knowledge from all these roundtables, and then we actually build this guide. It's truly an open source type of a movement or initiative that iSpirit truly stands for. So thanks all of you guys. It's because of you this guide is available. So we should continue to enhance this, and thanks Aaron for launching this. Anything else do you guys want to say? Sharad? So Sharad is actually the co-founder for iSpirit as an association. It's a, yeah, go ahead.
You know, I like to acknowledge 3 people who are not here, in addition to the wonderful people who have made this happen. And those 3 people are Anish Reddy, Vivek Subramaniam, and Ashish Gupta. Almost 2 years ago, the first Playbook Roundtable happened, you know, just in April of last year. And they spent enormous amount of time trying to get the Playbook Roundtables format correct. And their simple idea was that if we can get expert practitioners to transfer their knowledge to novice practitioners without being sages on stage. And so if you have participated in a Playbook Roundtable, you'll relate to what I'm saying. And today's session was thankfully somewhat like that, right? And so this is a movement that started 2 years ago, and so many people have contributed, and so it's a wonderful moment, and I just wanted to acknowledge the 3 of them because they got this going, and we owe a debt of gratitude to them. Thank you so much.
Ajay, come, you run Playbook. Why are you standing there, yeah?
See, by now you know everything that iSpirit does has Avinash inside, right? So,
Avinash.
Avinash, you okay. The unique genius word in it, so that's why you're asking us, right?
Yeah, so like marketing from your computer?
No, sitting in the desk, you can actually sell to people. You don't have to...
Yeah. Desk marketing. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. We have food and drinks outside, and thanks Aaron. Thanks for taking time, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Hey, I really enjoyed it. Congratulations, too, on the playbook launch here, and I think you're doing a great thing.
Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye.